There was a time when the house was always filled with my grandmother's laughter, a sound so unique that I can still hear it in my mind as clearly as if she were standing beside me. It was the kind of laugh that didn't just fill the room, it took up space in your heart. Grandma's laugh was vibrant and light, as if it could lift any burden, as though nothing could be too heavy when you were in her presence. It was a laugh that wrapped itself around you like a warm blanket, making you feel like everything would be okay. I still remembered the way her laughter would echo through the house, a sound that felt like home. It wasn't just the pitch or the cadence of it, it was the joy, the pure delight that lived in every note. Grandma had a special way of finding humor in life's simplest moments. She would laugh at the way the rain hit the window, or how a bird flitted about the garden. It wasn't about the joke, it was about the joy she found in life itself. And I, along with everyone who knew her, couldn't help but laugh along. But recently, that laughter has faded. My grandmother passed away last month. It was sudden, yet inevitable. She had been frail for years, her health declining with each passing season. I suppose I had known this moment would come, but no amount of preparation could ever soften the blow. When she passed, it was as though the air had been sucked from the room. The world seemed quieter, the days colder, as if something essential had been lost, not just a person, but an entire way of being. It was strange, living in a house that once reverberated with her presence, now eerily silent. At first I tried to fill the silence with other things, work, distractions, visiting family. But no matter how much I tried to drown out the emptiness, it lingered. The house felt different now. The walls felt colder, the rooms felt emptier, but what was even stranger than the silence was the laughter that soon followed. It began subtly at first. I thought I was imagining it, or that I had simply gotten so used to hearing her laugh that my mind was playing tricks on me. But then, the laughter came again, and again. At first it was just a faint sound, almost imperceptible, like a whisper in the wind or the rustle of leaves. But as the days passed, the sound became clearer, louder, and undeniably real. It wasn't the kind of laughter I had heard so many times before. It wasn't her laugh. The first time I heard it clearly, I was sitting in the living room, the same room where Grandma and I had spent so many afternoons together. The evening had fallen quiet, save for the occasional creak of the floorboards or the distant hum of a passing car. I was sipping tea, lost in my thoughts when I heard it, a soft, almost melodic chuckle just on the edge of my hearing. It sent a shiver down my spine. At first I thought it was just the house settling. Old homes have their quirks, creaks, groans, the way the floorboards shift with the changing temperature. But as the minutes passed, the laugh grew louder, clearer, and more distinct. It wasn't my grandmother's laugh. No, this was something else. Something colder, sharper. It didn't sound like joy. It sounded more like mockery, as though someone was toying with me. I froze, the cup of tea still in my hand as I tried to make sense of the sound. It was so strange, so wrong. It wasn't the laughter I'd known for years, the warm, inviting sound that always made me feel safe. This laugh was unsettling, almost eerie. I listened intently, waiting for it to stop, for the moment to pass, but it didn't. It continued, soft but persistent, echoing through the empty rooms of the house. I tried to brush it off, thinking I had just been imagining it. Maybe the wind had blown through an open window and carried the sound of something else. Perhaps a distant conversation from a neighbor had carried into the house. But the more I listened, the more certain I became. It wasn't just in my mind. The laughter was real. The next time it happened, I was in the kitchen, alone. The sound of the laughter came again, but this time, it was louder. It seemed to be coming from upstairs, but when I went to check, no one was there. The house was as empty as it had been when I first heard the sound. My heart raced. I felt a chill in the air, a presence I couldn't explain. I asked my mother if she had heard anything, but she shrugged it off, telling me it was probably the wind or some other natural explanation. I wanted to believe her, but the more the laughter returned, the less I could rationalize it. It felt deliberate. It felt like something was there, something that wasn't quite human, something that was waiting for me to acknowledge it. As the days passed, the laughter continued. At first, I was hesitant to bring it up to anyone else, thinking they would dismiss it as my imagination running wild. But when I finally mentioned it to my aunt, she looked at me with wide eyes and said she had heard it too. She had stayed with us for a few nights after the funeral, and one evening, while everyone else was asleep, she had heard the laugh from the attic. "It wasn't like your grandmother's," she said, her voice low. "It was wrong, like something else was trying to take her place." That's when I knew it wasn't just me. The house felt different, yes, but it was also the people who had lived here, their reactions, their fears, that made the situation even more unsettling. My mother, once a woman of great logic and reason, began to avoid the house altogether. She didn't want to stay in a place that had become filled with something. She couldn't name it, but she felt it. I tried to rationalize it all. The house was old. The wiring was faulty. The wind could have created strange noises, and our minds in grief are prone to fill the silence with echoes of the past. But I couldn't deny what I was hearing. I couldn't deny the way the air would grow colder in certain rooms, the way the lights would flicker just as the laughter began. It was as though the house was responding to something or someone. One night, when I couldn't sleep, I decided to confront it. I sat in the living room, in the center of the space where Grandma and I used to talk. I shut off the lights and waited. The room grew still, the silence wrapping itself around me like a heavy cloak. For a long time, nothing happened. I began to wonder if I had imagined the whole thing. Maybe I was just longing for her, projecting my grief onto the world. But then, there it was. A laugh, sharp, high-pitched, almost giddy, as if someone were delighted by the fear they were causing. It echoed through the room, cutting through the silence like a knife. It wasn't Grandma's. It was too cold, too mocking. My breath caught in my throat as I looked around, but the room was empty, save for me. I sat frozen in place, unsure of what to do. The laughter grew louder, as though it were circling me, taunting me. It didn't feel like a simple haunting. It felt like a presence, something waiting for me to acknowledge it, something that was drawing closer. I had to know what it was. I started searching the house for any logical explanation, checking the wiring, the pipes, even the attic. But everything seemed fine. No answers, just more laughter, more silence, more cold. The strangest thing about it all was how much the laughter began to sound like Grandma's. Not at first, but over time, it started to echo her in a way that was both familiar and terrifying. Was it her spirit? Was this how she was reaching out from the afterlife? Or was it something else? Something darker? Perhaps the afterlife is not just a place of peace, but a realm where those we love can linger in their own way. Maybe the laughter wasn't a haunting, but a reflection of my love and grief. Maybe it was Grandma's way of letting me know she was still here. Or maybe it was the house itself, the memories we shared, echoing through the walls, refusing to let go. I don't know what to believe anymore. Maybe the laughter is just a reminder that no one ever really leaves us, that the memories we hold, the love we share, don't vanish with death. They linger, waiting to be heard again. And as for me, I've come to accept it. The laughter, the cold, the flickering lights. I know it's her. I know it's not a trick of the mind. And though I may never fully understand it, I can live with it, because I know in some strange way she's still here, laughing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the way she wanted to leave her mark on this world. A mark that will never fade, no matter how many years pass. Have you ever experienced something that couldn't be explained? Something that made you question everything you thought you knew? I'd love to hear your stories. Maybe we're all haunted in different ways, but together, we can find comfort in knowing that we're not alone. Perhaps the laughter is just a way for those we love to remind us that they're still with us always. Please do like and subscribe to our channel.